The impact of the coronavirus outbreak on supply chains globally is the topic of my conversation today with David Shillingford. He is chairman of Resilience 360. David, welcome.
Thank you, Bob.
Sum up, if you will, for us the impact to date, at least, of the coronavirus on supply chains.
Sure. Well, one of the most notable things about the impact so far is that it has impacted demand as well as supply. So we've seen not only in China shops being closed, although some have reopened, the larger impact on the global economy, particularly if you think about luxury goods retailers and the amount of money that is spent by Chinese tourists throughout the world over a given year. And beyond that, we're starting to see other demand patterns changing, whether it's a move to omni-channel in certain aspects, but then there's the supply interruptions, which whether it's a factory that is being closed or a port that is closed, or just simply that you can't move between the two, or that the workforce is not available. Both on the demand side and from a supply respect, the disruption's already been quite significant.
Yeah, and not just in China. We've heard of factory closures in Korea, South Korea, as well, because of a lack of supply, I'm assuming. Is that why they're closing down in other countries? Because they just can't get the parts and the raw materials?
So yes, the impact in other countries is either because raw materials are not available, that generally will take a little bit longer to be felt, or because there are concerns about the safety of workers in other countries as the virus spreads beyond the borders of China.
Yeah, I've also heard that raw materials production continues in places around the world, but there's no market for it at the moment because the factories are shut down, thereby dropping the price of raw materials and creating a problem there in terms of pricing globally. So that seems like another kind of side effect, right?
It is. The interconnectivity between demand and distribution networks, as well as the raw materials and creation and assembly of products. If any of those are disconnected, the impact will be felt elsewhere.
So how are people and companies coping with this? We've talked a little bit about factory closures as one impact. Are there other ways in which they're reacting to this crisis, for better or worse?
So different companies are reacting in different ways, and that is either because of the size and shape of their supply chain, or simply the way that they have been able to prepare for this in the months and years leading up to it. Some companies are simply better prepared than others.
Mm-hmm. Where do you expect it to go? I mean, it doesn't sound like the crisis will be alleviated anytime soon from the sound of it. How much worse can it get, and what might be the future impact?
Well, it is certainly far from over. It seems that there is a level of containment within China, although what will happen remains to be seen. But we are starting to see the spread of the virus beyond China. Countries, Iran, Italy, we're starting to see a few more cases in the US. And just today, the US government said that they believe that it is a pandemic. So we can expect that it will be spreading elsewhere. It seems that countries are generally well prepared and are reacting to it with the benefit of having seen what happened in China.
You say countries are?
That's right.
Yeah. Companies, on the other hand, I mean, this isn't the first time. We had the SARS outbreak in 2003, and then we also had the tsunami in Japan and the floods in Thailand in 2011. One would think that those events would have served as a lesson to companies to shore up their supply chains, to become more resilient, to pay more attention to risk management. Did that indeed happen?
To some extent. The events in 2011, the tsunami and the extensive flooding in Thailand did certainly bring this to the attention of numerous companies. In that case, Thailand was very concentrated around high-tech industry, particularly semiconductors, and in Japan, the automotive industry felt the most impact. Both industries have since then done a lot to get better visibility to their extended supply chains and to be monitoring risks in real time. Other industries less so. And with respect to SARS, it is likely that the lessons that come out of this and the impact felt by companies and their supply chains will be much greater, simply because China's role in the supply chain and the world economy is really quite different now than it was in 2003.
Yeah. So going forward, what advice would you have for companies that go toward the idea of shoring up their programs, becoming more resilient, paying more attention to risk management? What should companies be doing for the future to guard against future such interruptions in supply chains?
So in the future, the companies that will react best to incidents like this are the companies that have taken the time and effort to map out their extended supply chain network, and then to use technology to understand what is the risk within that network, so that mitigation and planning can take risk into account, and then to be monitoring events around the world. Very often the event will happen, it'll be known about, but the impact of that will take time to flow through the supply chain. So there are always things that can be done even after the event happens if it is known about quickly and the right plans are in place.
Yeah, but memories can be short, so maybe now is the time for top executives that it's top of mind for them. They will accept the additional cost required to create these programs, these diversification programs, this study of mapping of the supply chain, whereas a couple of years from now, when things are settled down, maybe they won't be paying as much attention to it. So maybe now is the time, huh?
I think that's right. There is always a wave of interest around the type of processes and technologies that can mitigate these types of risks. What is different this time not only is the potential magnitude of this, but that the technology that is available is not risk management as traditionally done off to the side of other operations, but we're seeing more and more that the type of technology, the predictive analytics that is most applicable to this, is becoming embedded into supply chain management operations. That means that it's something that will continue to happen and can actually benefit the optimization of supply chains on a day-to-day basis, not just when something big happens.
Right, so there is a long-term lesson to be learned, and maybe companies are going in that direction somewhat. David, thank you so much for helping us to understand what is the impact, current and future, of the coronavirus outbreak on supply chains. Thanks for being with us.
My pleasure. Thank you, Bob.
I've been speaking with David Shillingford of Resilience 360. Thank you very much for watching.